and welcome to More to the Story. My name is Michelle Ankerberg, and I'm here with my cousin, Jeff Blanche.
And we're here at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention in Nashville, Tennessee, and we're getting to sit down with some of the leading Christian broadcasters all around the world to hear what God is doing.
Today we have a very special guest with us. His name is Ron Harris, and Ron is currently president of Media Alliance. He works with a lot of the internationals around the world. And here at the National Religious Broadcasters, at one time he was in charge of the internationals and bringing them here and getting them involved in our convention that we have for radio and television. And so Ron, I kind of want to start back with your ministry and how you got started and what you're doing. And I know you started in radio, so kind of take us back to the beginning.
Interesting, you know how God works in our lives. My dad, after World War II, ended up owning a radio repair shop.
Wow.
And then when television came in, late 40s, early 50s, he just expanded. So I was always around radio, TV, even learned how to fix a few of them.
Wow.
And so it was one of those touch points, you know, in my life to be around media like that.
Right.
Along the way, I ended up with a strong desire to go into radio or media.
Right.
And so in college, I did that. I started in 1966. So that's what... It's coming up on 57 years, I guess, something like that. I don't do the math very well.
Anymore,
But a long time ago. And from there, I worked in radio. I even did radio in the Air Force.
Oh, wow.
I spent 2.5 years in Athens, Greece.
Really?
Doing morning DJ. So that was my military duty for all that time.
Wow.
So God just, you know, had a design and a plan to move me in those directions. And then I began to work with churches in their media, did that a good bit.
Yes.
Spent about 15 years back in radio with a Christian radio station in Dallas, KCBI, and was on the air for those years, but also general manager of the station. So out of that came teaching some, and then 4.5 years with National Religious Broadcasters in the international work. And it was that was kind of the springboard into what we're doing now.
Right.
So to give more focus on the international work and to be more flexible to do what we felt like we needed to do quickly, we formed this nonprofit. I was 67 years old when I did it.
Wow.
So, 9 years ago.
That's right, There's no retiring.
Instead of retiring, you joined.
I tell people I miss the off-ramp, for retirement. So just down the highway.
Right.
But boy, it's been the biggest joy of my life because what we do is we work now with about Christian media leaders in about 40 different countries, literally all over the world, 5 continents.
Wow.
And some to more degrees, some less.
Sure.
As you know, we've been in India quite a bit for over 10 years or so, helping the folks in India get started with association with some training, and then backing out and watching them grow in that area. Thailand is another place where we've done media training.
Wow.
Egypt has been another place, and Eastern Europe.
Wow.
Romania in through that region, but also in Ukraine. And we were in Ukraine in April of last year.
Wow.
We were scheduled to be there in April of this year.
No.
But that's not going to happen.
No. Yeah. I know you have a lot of friends who are over there. You probably can tell if they've been able to get out, or are they still...
Some of them are staying. Some of them are staying. That's their heart. One that we work very closely with, Ruslan Kukarchuk, who heads up an association of Christian journalists. He did move his family because he has 4 kids and his sweet wife. We know them almost like family.
Wow.
They moved from Kyiv about 300 miles to the west.
Wow.
And he's still trying to stay there. He's trying to touch base with his staff, with his volunteers.
Right.
He told me, I think it was this morning, there's one man who's in one of the areas that's being just decimated. He said, I haven't heard from him in a couple of days and I can't reach him, and I'm really, really worried.
Yeah.
And so a lot of what we're doing now with the folks there is basically encouraging them and praying for them.
For sure.
And connecting them with others who may be able to help.
Right.
So, it's tough. We, generally speaking, we hold these media conferences and training.
Right.
But a lot of what we do is just encouragement.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you're serving in Christian media in a land where the Christian population is less than 1%,
Right.
it's not a real good career move. There's not people going to pat you on the back and say, oh, you're doing a great job, you're on your way to the top. No, none of that.
Right.
And a lot of times I've had them say, my pastor doesn't understand what we're doing.
Right.
They don't quite get it. And so I try to stay connected to them in a way that just, let them know we love them, we're praying for them, and many times just say, what can we do to help?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
And right now from Ukraine, it's prayer.
Yes.
Now they need, humanitarian help.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They need ways to get some of the people out.
Yes.
Yeah.
But mostly they say, thank you for the prayer.
Wow.
Wow.
What a ministry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And being in broadcasting, how have you seen that change over the years?
Oh, wow. When I started, the records were about this big,
Yes, yeah.
bigger than a giant pizza.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the equipment's changed quite a bit.
Sure, yeah.
But you know what? What hasn't changed is the connection that we can make, particularly
Right.
through radio,
Yes.
with a listener.
Yes.
It's always been one-on-one.
Right.
It's not hello out there in radio land,
Right.
It's one person.
Right.
And the connections that are made are so good, so deep sometimes.
Right.
It gives you the privilege of speaking into their heart,
Yes.
spiritual truth.
Yes.
It's almost like a really good friend, but not quite.
Right.
It's interesting. We did a campaign one year, I think it was the Year of the Bible.
Uh-huh.
And so we encouraged people to read their Bible, read all the way through in a year.
Right.
We had campaign plans on our website. And every day we would read a verse and kind of ask the people, are you reading your Bible?
Right.
All right. So put that into your friend context.
Yes.
If I came up to you every day
Right.
and said, Michelle, have you read your Bible today?
Yeah.
After about the third day, you'd start avoiding me. After the fourth
That's
day,
right,
you
yes.
want to slug me, right?
Yes.
But you
Yes,
know what?
right.
I could
Yeah.
do that on radio with
Right.
people. It's almost the same relationship.
Right.
I'd say, how you been doing on that Bible reading?
Right.
Are you up with us on that? And you could do it every day to nudge them along, and
Wow.
they didn't have that
That's right, yeah.
desire to slug you.
Exactly.
thankfully.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a special relationship that can be built.
Wow.
So from
Wow.
50 years ago plus to today, the kind of ways that we can engage
Yes.
people. One of the workshops that I teach is on engaging your listener,
Right.
connecting with them so that you can give them that
Word
truth.
of God, yeah. It's like we've been partnering with a company called Faith Comes by Hearing.
Absolutely.
And they get the proclaimers out, the SD cards, the Bible sticks. And you would have never imagined that 10 years ago, whatever, and how technology has changed in
Oh, yeah.
places that
Yeah.
missionaries cannot go into, that you can send those devices in,
Yeah. And
It's
we all
just-
have our smartphones with
Yes.
cameras that are better than anything that I
Yes.
used to haul around on my shoulder with
Exactly.
battery belts looking like a bandito or something.
Exactly, yes.
And those things, and the quality was horrible.
It's right, yes.
And now you can do everything on one of
You can.
those.
You
And it's
can.
4K, it's the highest quality you can imagine.
Yes.
And you can do all that. So now we want to train people
Yes.
to use those tools, not just to take, family snapshots or
Right,
whatever.
right.
How can you use that to tell God's story
Yes.
of what He's up to in people's lives?
Right.
And so we do workshops in those areas, storytelling,
Sure.
writing things, so that we can get people better into communicating what God is up to in our world
Right,
today.
right.
And it's so fun.
It's exciting. Yeah,
It's
it
so
is.
fun. It's
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
I know that doesn't sound like a real spiritual word,
Yeah.
Kathy.
No, but that's
No.
But it is so fun when
Yes.
you are where God has placed you and
Yes.
created you and gifted you and experienced you to be.
Right.
It's nothing but fun. And
Yeah.
I'm old enough, I just pour into the lives of these young
That's
people. I
right.
kind of half adopt them.
That's right. Oh, yes.
I have to tell them I don't have any money, so when I die, you're not getting anything. So don't get real excited about
Yeah.
that part of it. But you know what? We just love them. We've
Yes.
had many of them stay in our homes
Yes.
when they come to the States, and we've stayed with them sometimes in their homes.
Yes. Yeah.
Building a relationship with people so far away, today's technology
That's
lets
so
us
important.
do that, and it is so important.
Yes.
Pristina, which is the capital of Kosovo,
Okay.
99% Muslim.
Wow.
There are now 2, maybe 3 Christian radio stations.
wow.
The first one went on there, and our friend Ardit that manages it, he told me one day, we stayed really connected. He
Yeah.
said, you're more connected to me than my pastor.
Wow.
And he's the one that said, my pastor doesn't really understand what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so I really stayed close, and he's like a son,
Yes.
like that.
Yes.
He called me one day, or actually texted, and he said, hey, a Muslim young man called and asked about Jesus, and wants me to go to coffee with him. And what I read between the lines was, this could be a setup to kill me.
Wow. Wow.
So you just sit there and pray.
Yes,
and I said,
exactly. Yes.
I'm praying for God to use you,
Right.
but I'm praying for your protection as well.
Exactly.
And a little while later, he said, I met with a man. He's definitely interested in Jesus. He's a young man, but he's a leader in his community, and I think will be someone that will help share what God is about
Right.
to those Muslim people that he can influence.
Wow.
So, but you know, that's a whole different world.
It is a whole different world, and we don't understand that here in the United States at all. And like, we were talking with some earlier. Until you go to other countries, do you really see that? Do you see the persecution?
Yeah.
Do you see how religious freedom is taken for granted? You know what I mean? And so you don't understand that because we take that all for granted here in the United States.
We really do. And persecution takes on a variety of roles. Yes. We had about 15 of the media leaders in Dallas back in the fall.
Yes.
And I told the group, I said, out of this group, we have had people who have been kidnapped, beaten, and held overnight, and somehow released. Yeah. We've had those that had guns pulled on them, their lives threatened, their equipment taken away from them for months and months. Others that their license, the threat of their license being taken away, in fact, several of them. Right. And that was just out of this small group.
Wow.
And so there are a variety of ways that really Satan attacks those who are taking God's message of hope to people who desperately need to hear it.
Yes, for
That's
sure.
Amazing.
And I guess one last thing is, where do you think broadcasters, as far as radio and television, it's going in the future? What do you? And I know there's no crystal ball out there to look at that and see, but where do you think, with everything that's happening, and since you've worked with the internationals, what do you see kind of shaping up a little bit?
Well, there's kind of, everything's kind of melding together. Right. So you've got, instead of radio, you've got podcasts.
Yes.
And instead of what we would think of as traditional television, you have podcasts, the video podcasts and things. Yeah. So those things are kind of merging because people are using their media sources differently.
Yes.
Yeah. They'll watch them on the bus, and they'll watch those podcasts or listen while they're jogging, or they'll do this or do that. I think there'll be more of that, but you know what? I think there's something about people who will sit and listen to the radio, particularly if there's a presenter, a DJ, announcer, whatever, that they can relate to. They'll listen to it. It's like a friend, and they'll play the music. They'll give the information. They'll do that, and you kind of sit back and relax.
Right.
You don't have to run it.
Yes.
And I think there'll be room for that.
Right.
Television the same way.
Sure.
If there's quality content on programs, people will look for it. You don't watch a whole channel forever and ever, like you might listen to a radio station.
Right.
So you'll go and you'll cherry pick. This program's a great one. I want to watch it every time and all. So I think there'll still be room for what we would call traditional radio and television, but I think where we're going to be seeing more and more online.
Yes.
And in some of the countries, that's what they have to do. Russia shut down all of their radio, television broadcast of any kind.
Right.
But there's still some potential for online.
Yes.
And I got a request from a man that heads up a seminary saying, would you come sometime and talk to our pastors about how they could better utilize these social media tools for the gospel. And so even when Satan tries to clamp down, there's a way.
Yes.
I have this theory, I think I can back it up, that God designed broadcasting and everything else, all these tools, for his purpose. And men use it and they do whatever. And it goes back to the fact that broadcasting is not an electronic term.
Sure.
It's an agricultural term. Because as in the parable of the sower and the seed, he reaches in, grabs seed, and he casts it over a broad area. Broadcasting. You talk to a farmer about broadcasting, they know exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
Spreading the seed over a broad area. That's one way of doing it. And even the disciples said, okay, Jesus, what were you talking about? Remember what he said?
Yes.
The seed is the truth of my word.
Right.
So I think
that makes sense. Yes.
God designed all of this for his purpose.
Right.
And occasionally we're a little slow to figure that out.
Yeah.
But I'm so proud of what you guys are doing, what your dad has done for years, taking these tools by the reins and say, I'm going to use it for God's
Right.
purpose.
Right, exactly.
And I'm going to do it as God leads me. And we're going to do this and we're going to do that.
Right.
And be creative and inventive and kind of leading in our thinking and not
Yes.
following.
Yes.
And doing things that reach people in a creative variety of ways.
That's right.
God's going to honor those steps.
Exactly.
And what you guys are doing, right up there.
Oh, well, we appreciate that. And
Yeah.
we're so thrilled to have you on today. And we just, praying for you and the ministry that you're doing and
Thank you.
working with the international people. And like you said, that is so needed to be an encouragement to them, to pray for them. And that can be an encouragement to our listeners as well, that you may not be able to go to those places, but we're called to pray.
Yeah,
and to be there.
absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
And again, while we may feel handcuffed a little bit,
Yes.
not able to, quote, do things,
Right.
we can pray.
Right.
And we know that the disciples said, how come we can't get this done? And God said, well, and Jesus said, it's prayer and fasting.
Yeah.
Then you can be more effective in your prayer life and accomplish things that you couldn't do otherwise.
Right.
So we know there's power in prayer.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's a great thing for listeners
That's
to be
right.
able to do.
That's right. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it.